Welcome to the Gentleman's Talk, where the podcast talks about a man's battle with mental health, his personal experiences, and his journey to be a better soul. Hosted by James Dean Littlejohn.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the Gentleman's Talk with an interesting update. I've jumped on a bit early actually. Do you know what I mean? Just sort of sat here in my lunch break, just thinking I can't wait any longer to give an update. I did a rather interesting podcast for myself, and the impact from doing that podcast highlighted quite a few things in me. I had a really difficult evening sleeping, a real difficult time letting go. Hopefully you've listened to my previous podcast and are aware of a situation that arose during in my workplace. Interesting scenario as well, that I gave you a little bit of context with regards to a couple of friends and a couple of family members that had given me some feedback on that, and I actually got another point of view, which again underpinned and reinforced my own personal feelings by, you know, it was my best friend. He contacted me this morning, rung me and said, dude, I've just listened to your podcast and you know, I 100% agree. Your boss shouldn't be in a position where he's asking you to assist him with CVs. He should be in a position where, you know, he can confidently write that CV for himself. Otherwise, what's he doing in that role? So it was nice to hear that response, actually, because I beat myself up quite a bit last night about it, really, if I'm honest. You know, I kind of finished the podcast, did a little bit of reflection time still, so I finished the podcast around about 9:15ish in the evening, managed to squeeze in half an hour of reflection time, which was really interesting, because my emotions were all over, almost to the point where I was angry with myself. I was angry, you know, that I thought I was doing the wrong thing, and I you know, I also was angry with myself that although I knew I wasn't doing the wrong thing, I was doing the right thing. I felt although the right thing on this occasion was the wrong thing. So, you know, it was a double-edged sword, really, and it sort of kind of played on my mind. I got really angry. I was just sort of kind of mulling it over. I was dwelling on it, and I just didn't sort of kind of feel comfortable with how it left me. To the point where it impacted my sleep. I couldn't relax and just let go, you know, and that was, it almost made me feel like I'd regressed about 5 years in my condition. I got that because when I was doing the podcast, I felt very bitter. I felt annoyed about doing it, and I think it drove my sort of emotions through the podcast, and I don't think it delivered as it normally would. There was no relaxation in it. I was angry because, well, as I said, I've worked hard to get where I am, and you know, as I said, I took it as a bit of a compliment, but at the same time, I got angry. So, and I wanted to highlight those and talk about the podcast and just say, look, you know, it's not over. I'm still dealing with these emotions. I still deal with this. And this is where I talk about all the time that mental health is a constant battle. And I just had this sort of, I brought it onto a topic where I spoke about emotional exhaustion. And in actual fact, I was highlighting those signature, you know, emotions and expressions that are developed from emotional sort of, you know, emotional exhaustion. And with that, and even with the reflection time, I kind of just, I dwelled. I hated myself because I'm not a horrible person. So part of me was wanting to help them, and that was where I was battling with my own demons. Part of me was sat there going, I'll just help them. But the other part of me, the moral part of me, was like, mate, you've worked fucking hard. You've worked tirelessly to get here. You've given up time. You've given up effort. Why the hell would you do that? You know, so I was battling two sides of me, the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other, so to speak. You know, we get those little metaphors. And it was a tough evening, I'm not going to lie. I did reflection and I thought, no, James, I was shouting at myself in my head. I was talking to myself and I was going, you know, what I often do is when I do these podcasts, I often feel very relaxed afterwards, because I've done the talking aspect. I've spoke to people. Hopefully people are going to listen, and hopefully people are going to give me feedback. So I've done that process. I've done the process that's worked time and time again over the last 5 months, and it didn't suppress my emotions. It didn't help me in any way for some reason. I think it was just because I was so angry with the way that I had to be. The position I was put in went totally against what my character suggests. And my character suggests I want to help people, but I don't want to help people to the point where they don't want to work for it. So I went to sleep eventually about 2-3 o'clock in the morning. So I'm a little bit tired again, and I was tired yesterday because I've appreciated now that actually by talking about emotional exhaustion, I actually read and understood those triggers and those coping mechanisms, or those symptoms. I read and understood everything whilst I was delivering it to the podcast. And in actual fact, I sat there and went, fucking hell, James, you've actually got emotional exhaustion yourself here, you know? And I was battling I had a massive stress headache after doing that podcast yesterday. I didn't sleep very well. There was nothing to write down because I'd already given away everything that I would have written down. Do you understand what I'm saying? There was no point in writing more down because I'd already said and processed everything that I wanted to say. But it left me in a moral dilemma. It left me in a bit of an emotional roller coaster, really, in the sense that I didn't know what to do. I wanted to help these people, but at the same time, I didn't want to make it easy because it's unfair. It's not fair competition. It's also, I have a little bit of, what's the word I'm looking for? Not respect, but I have a little bit of, there's a word in there somewhere. But basically, to put it in layman's terms, to make it easier for myself so I can process this, I just I felt that I'd done everything properly. I'd done it the right way. And I have never skipped processes. And I've done everything myself. So I've got a lot of self-worth out of that. And I've got a lot of respect for my own self for doing it the right way. Now, morally, I found it difficult because at the same time, I wanted to help these people because I am genuinely a nice guy and I do help people. But at the same time, like I said, it was difficult. So I was in a little bit of a pickle, a little bit of a dilemma last night, and it's impacted me. And that just goes to show that mental health, and most people would have said, "Oh, just let it go. You know, you've dealt with it. You sent an email. You'll help out when you can." But I can't do that because I'm constantly battling. Have I done the right thing? Have I made myself look an arsehole? To the point where even this morning, I woke up this morning half asleep, knackered, didn't really get a good night's sleep, tossing and turning all night, and yeah, I was brushing my teeth and it still impacted me. I was still feeling crap, even after a mediocre sleep. So I didn't know how to battle it. And then luckily I had some extra feedback, or some feedback from somebody who'd actually listened to my podcast, so they'd actually felt the background, the whole scenario, and dealt with all of the emotions that I articulated in my podcast last night. And the feedback was positive from my friend. He said to me, "No, mate, your boss should never put you in that situation." And I was like, "I know." He said, "I know you're a nice guy, I understand that, and you want to help, but you can't give it to random people on a platter. I might as well just put my fucking CV online and just let everyone have a free-for-all." Do you know what I mean? And again, the CV, I've sat a CV writing class. I did everything properly. Again, I'm doing it to make myself a commodity, make myself look appealing when I go through these processes. So for me, it was like, I had a massive concern with how I had to deal with that. It went against my own personal judgment of how I normally deal with situations, because like I said, I'm a friendly guy. I try to help out as much people as I can. But lo and behold, I joined in this morning, and I jumped straight online, and I said to the guy that needed my help, one of the guys that needed my help, I said to him, "Look, mate, send me through what you have written and let me try and manipulate your wording to bump it up a little bit and give it a little bit more, a little more gravitas, and sort of kind of hopefully it will shine through. And lo and behold, he sent me his stuff, and I said to him, I put it quite bluntly because I'm quite an honest guy. I said to him, "You're not going to get sifted with that, mate." And he gave me a sad face. I said, "You're absolutely not, mate. You've got nothing in there at all. It's a very self-centered approach to your application, and there's nothing in there at all that people would be looking for. You've just, I don't know, it just didn't have any structure to it, and it was very me, not kind of like, there was no diversity, there was no inclusiveness into it. So I had to rewrite it again this morning. So I rewrote it, but what I didn't do was didn't send it through to him. I asked him to jump onto Teams, and we had a Teams meeting, and we got a lot out of it, and that's what I wanted. I had to put it to bed because I couldn't let it go, and I was like, right, I need to help somebody. I need to help them because I won't feel good in myself if I don't help them. I won't feel happy with that, and I didn't want this to continue into another night. And that's a problem with PTSD, mental health. You just dwell on things. It's constantly firing around in your head. It affected, like I said, it affected my sleep. It affected my eating last night because, I got off the podcast, did a bit of, reflection, and then went through and ate some toast because I was so angry. I was like, get some toast down you, James, Eating bread before we go to bed, that's a big no-no, isn't it? So again, I was hitting those triggers. I was hitting those signs and symptoms on that emotional exhaustion that I just literally spoke about. And I was like, look out for this. And there I was, looking out for it in myself, staring in the mirror going, you've got emotional exhaustion, mate. And I have. I think I've got a general, a little bit of emotional exhaustion anyway, because I've had a couple of really good weekends. I've had a couple of sort of kind of getting over COVID, and then I had another good weekend, and then this was impacted on my first day back to work. So again, I've not really settled into a flow. It was kind of the pressure was put onto me to make it happen, by my boss. It was very much like, we need to make sure we can give them as much support as possible. And I was like, well, yeah, that's your job, mate. That's not my job. That's not my job to support them directly for that. It's my job to support them as a colleague, as a teammate, and help them as much as I can. Yes, agreed. That's an inclusive workplace. But it's not my job to sit there and get people jobs. That's not what I am. I'm not a recruiter. I'm not an administrator. I'm within health and safety. So that's not part of my role. What I've done is I've done off my own merits. I've done off my own background, my own research. And lo and behold, within a couple of Google searches, I'd had the information I was required to make his personal statement, etc., all up to standard. Now, I sent that through about 2 hours ago, and we had a chat, and we've pumped it up a bit. We've given it a little bit more sort of passion involved in it, and made it look a little bit more like it's a team inclusivity. There's inclusion, diversity, all the good stuff that everybody wants as an employer. They want you to be able to articulate that. So, yes, probably false, because he didn't do that in the first place, and the structure of his format was quite poor. So, ultimately, I've done what I didn't want to do, but what I have done is I've done it through his wording. So he's not taken my wording and plagiarised it and just changed the name. What he's done is he's actually done it the right way. He's done it the way that I would have done it. As in, let's come and have an assistant, let's have a little bit of time, and set aside a little bit of time for him for next week as well. So another half day where I'm going to go up to see his workplace and offer my assistance on the interview process and how I interview. Or how when I'm interviewed, what sort of question structure, just to assist, because I'm here to help at the end of the day. I don't want people to fail when, and I have to caveat this with the fact that he is a very, very intelligent guy. He's a very intelligent guy. He knows what he's talking about, and I know for a fact he'd be good for the team. And I've worked alongside him for the last 2 months, so I know this. I've got a personal rapport with him. So, again, that was my moral compass there, was being affected massively, because I was invested in the guy as a team member, but I didn't want to just give it to him on a plate. I was like, you've got to do a little bit of work here, mate. And, and we got there in the end. We did it the right way, which was really, really important. To offer him that assistance and offer him that guidance. Because at the end of the day, there's people out there that are really good at their job but don't interview very well. And there's also people out there that interview really well but are fucking appalling at their job. Because, anyone can sit there and... Well, not anyone, clearly, but... People can sit there and big themselves up on the interview process. They can big themselves up through their CV, and then they can get into the job and completely flounder, as I've seen. I've seen people do this. Then you get the alternative version where you're in a role where you're very, very competent, but you find it hard, which is where I got with him, you find it hard to articulate that in the right way. So I had an interesting day this morning, an interesting evening, an interesting day. I felt very emotionally overwhelmed, I'm not going to lie, and I didn't really kind of know how to deal with it, which is a first for me. Again, I'm being challenged all the time, so I still don't know. I still have an element of bitterness in the back of my head because I was asked to I was put in that position, so I lost a little tiny bit of respect actually for my boss because I just felt that was a bit uncalled for to put me in that position. Not the position I wanted to be put into, put it that way. So, yeah, interesting, wasn't it? Interesting. But I wanted to just jump on, really, and just give you a little bit of feedback on that. And just sort of say that it's really important, even though I've had a plethora of, mental health courses, and I love mental health. I deal with mental health all the time. In fact, one of my friends yesterday, I didn't mention it on yesterday's podcast, but he's... Like I said, one of my friends is moving to a new job, and we were talking yesterday about trying to get a sort of mediation room, but make it very feng shui, feng shui, make it very yin and yang, make it a really comfortable environment. And in my last job, that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to create an area that was very relaxed, that people can go and talk, and you can have diversity and inclusion conversations in a nice sort of comfortable environment. And he actually complimented my moss wall, which I did myself because I've researched moss walls quite heavily, and the effects that they offer, the clean air and everything else, all the good stuff. There's more positives than negatives to having a moss wall. So if you ever want to research a good office space, something to develop into an office space to make you feel a little bit more like outside, or something you just want to brighten up a room with and bring in a little bit of nature into your room, it is bringing a moss wall in. But we were talking about that yesterday, and I was like, mate, let me help you out, please, because I have loads of ideas, loads of designs, poster designs, all sorts, because that was where I was going to go in my last job as a health and safety advisor. I wanted to have a little bit of a niche on the side with regards to mental health because I wanted to help people. It didn't come to fruition because I left that role and went into another role, something that was more advantageous to me at the time and my family. So I took on the challenge, and this is something I still feel passionate about, still want to develop. I'm not really in the right organisation, it seems, for that, but we all hit brick walls and blockers. So I will continue to knock them down and see what I can develop. But yeah, it was interesting. It was it was an interesting evening, even though talking about it, and actually by talking about it, because it was fresh in my mind, I actually went, James, I've seen 5 of those triggers right now. You are irrationally emotional. You are irrationally angry. Your eating habits are changing. My sleep habit changed. I've caused myself stress headaches, and I woke up this morning exhausted, and then tried to function. So the only way I could physically put that right in my mind was to actually engage with him, and I was proactive, not him. He didn't come to me. I went to him and goes, right, mate, let's do this, this, and this. Send me through what you've got. Let me have a look at it, and then we can go from there. But you need to show me a foundation. I can't write it from the start. I can't do the work for you. That's unfair. So we got somewhere today, and that has actually put my mind at rest, made me feel very comfortable. And yeah, I managed to sort of kind of, that's the only way I could deal with it, was by actually physically helping him. But it was interesting how I was put into such a situation that I just didn't think I could control, or I had to be someone out of character for me, because I don't like being horrible. It's like, for instance, just give you an example, I sent a work email last week and it was received as a negative work email. In actual fact, it was just hit across my desk and I forwarded it on. But I got involved in, not involved from my perspective, I certainly didn't rise to the negativity, but I got sort of kind of tarnished with the brush that it was me that had done this and what was I doing. And it was interesting, because my immediate response to that was, I was going to go back and say, "Can wind your neck in, shut your mouth, I'm just sending you information and want information back." In actual fact, I didn't. I went, no. I sent them an email and I literally said to them, I apologise. I was not meaning anything negative. There was no animosity. You do a fantastic job with the resources that you have. And I'm pretty much speaking it verbatim of what I remember. So I turned around and said, if there's anything that you need from me, anything you want from me, just please let me know. This wasn't this is friendly forces. This is not what I was involved in. So that's my management style. I come down hard when I need to, but that's rare as rock and all shit. I don't like doing that. I'd rather nurture that kind of positive relationship, build up a rapport with people, and that's what I did. But I did that to the 3 people that basically ostracized me and made me feel like shit because I was in this really long response. And I think because I reacted so positively and, sort of de-escalate and diffuse the situation, they didn't reply. They didn't say anything to me because they knew. I was like, well, you've come at me like you're an arsehole, mate, and you don't need to be this person. So literally chill out. Obviously, if that had been a year ago or a couple of years ago, I probably would have had a slightly different response to them, and I probably would have given them, a couple of barrels of ammunition and gone, this is what I am, this is who I am, and you'll comply. It's as simple as that. And I can do that. I do have that authority, but I don't want to use that authority ever, because that is just putting up walls, isn't it? You might as well just sit there and go, never talk to me again, because they won't. Whereas if you just go, look, I'm here to help, I'm here to do what I can. And that's my ethos in life. My ethos in life is, and this is where I said to you a few podcasts ago that I don't like doing things on my own, because I can do them on my own, but I don't want to. And it's the same for everyone else, but we're all a little bit scared to ask for help, aren't we? Hold up. Yeah, sorry about that. Someone's at the door. That's what happens when you do a podcast during the day, isn't it? And it sort of brings me on to that a little bit of a thing that is quite funny. Something I've experienced, and something that I know for a fact that most of the people that are in my work environment are men. So, it sort of brought me onto that fact that, men tend to not engage in help, do they? They sort of downplay any physical or emotional problems. And it doesn't take a psychologist to see that this is a trait with most men. We all sit there and try to endure our problems on our own in the hope that they'll either go away or you'll resolve them. And, that can, if you're a strong-willed person, that can work. But I guarantee that you will be a detriment to your health at some point. And if you're not a strong-willed person and you're trying to do that, it's going to be a detriment to your health pretty much instantly. You're going to be sat there stressed and you're going to hit that depression cycle before you even realise it. So, and this is the whole purpose of the Gentleman's Talk, is to prove that it does help to talk. And I've noticed by nurturing those with my friends are a lot more open with me and I'm a lot more open with them. And to the point where I actually made a massive faux pas yesterday. So one of the things I did was, on the basis of, the way that went yesterday with my boss, I needed to unload, and I didn't. I sort of kind of needed to go, fucking hell, what's happening here? So I actually rung my friend, forgetting. It was weird, because I woke up in the morning, did my normal message to say hello, good morning, have a good day. There's a little positive vibe group, so we're talking to each other all the time. And then he reminded me that he was going to a funeral. He was actually going to his wife's nan's funeral, and it was a 2-hour drive, and a sort of celebration of life rather than a funeral. She was fairly old, but she'd had a good life. So it was more of a celebration, which is a beautiful way to look at a funeral anyway. So what I did was I sent him a message afterwards, forgetting completely that he was going to a funeral because it was a Monday and I thought he was just in work as normal. And then it got to just after dinner, and I messaged him saying, I can't believe you chinned me off. You bastard. That's what I was saying to him. I was literally saying to him, I must have said it about 4 times. I was like, you bastard. You fucking bastard. You've chinned me off. Then I received a text message from him saying, I haven't listened to your messages, buddy. I've just got out the wake. And I went, oh, fuck. Please don't listen to the messages until around about 8-9 o'clock, because you'll think I'm a complete and utter wanker. Because I was giving him shit for not talking to me because I wanted to offload and unload, because I'm almost in a position where I take advantage of that as much as I can. I talk to people because I just wanted to talk, and I knew that it was going to manifest and go in deeper. And I suppose I know that by interacting with my best mate, he knows me well enough to offer me the right advice. And not look at it from an outside perspective too much, because he would have looked at it as, he knows my personality, so he'll know how I feel. And even if I'm wrong, and if he'd have turned around and said, no, mate, you've been a bit of a jackass, I would have gone, ooh, fucking hell, all right, mate, thanks. Do you know what I mean? Because there's that trust, that relationship, and that's what I nurture all the time with the people around me, is that ability to be able to talk to them and go, what do you think of this fucking situation, mate? And they go, well, this is how I'd handle it, but I know you, and that's how you probably handle it. So it's kind of it's an interesting situation. You want to talk, but at the same time, when you can't talk, it's that importance, isn't it? It's that dealing with those, it's letting it manifest. And men associate, unfortunately, sort of seeking assistance as an emotional problem. We see it as shame, don't we? And weakness. That's a big word for man, isn't it? Weakness. Oh, you fucking weak, mate. Well, I'm not weak, mate. My mental health is just fucking frazzled, mate, you know? And you always get that, and I keep talking about this element of man up, this move on, stand up, smile, you know? And unfortunately, it's sad, but it's very true. We do see it as a weakness. And admitting that problem and seeking help is also perceived as weakness, isn't it? So whether that's reaching out to a friend, reaching out to a doctor, going to get the medication that you know you need, men won't do it. My own father's a stubborn bastard in the fact that he won't take medication. He won't take medication for himself. He does still see, he's very old school. He's 67-year-old, but he's very old school mentality. He infuriates me. He doesn't believe, and we've had a lot of in-depth conversations over the last couple of years, you know, as we're building up a rapport with each other. And a couple of times I've gone, mate, you should have seen a fucking doctor. You should have seen a psychologist, you know? And it just wasn't available when he was young, and when he was a young soldier, it wasn't available. He didn't know. He was dealing with a lot of pressures. He was dealing with raising 3 children. He was dealing with the pressures of moving around at different locations and the pressures of the military, you know, and promotion and all the other things. And he didn't take any assistance, and he still does that now. He really does piss me off, actually. But to admit that problem is a sign of weakness. And, you know, we all try to be tough, strong, macho, don't we? Well, I'm macho, I can deal with this myself. And we avoid those problems. We ignore pain. We deny the reality. And where are men getting the idea to ask... I mean, where do we get the idea that asking for help is weakness? Well, predominantly it's from other men, because that's what we do to each other. Men, we are actually the worst offenders when it comes to judging and shaming. To the point where if a man is down, what a man will do is systematically kick that man while he's down. Get the fuck up. And I think that's a difference in the genders. That's a difference in the male and the female genders. Females tend to perk each other up. You know, oh, your man's left you, fucking come out with the ladies, we're going to have a ladies' night. Or you might have something difficult, and they will physically go around and have a cup of tea or a bottle of wine and bring some roses and flowers and say, fucking, here, I'm here to support you. If a man does that, then it's a complete opposite. Other men will sit there and go, fucking man up, mate. And men don't go to women because, of Christ almighty, you wouldn't want to go to a woman and say you were, you're emotionally exhausted, or you're overwhelmed, or you wouldn't go and ask a woman, because they'll be looking at you going, well, fucking hell, mate, are you a man or what? Because again, this ethos that we've developed through our own selves, our own gender, our own male gender has done this. It's nothing else. The men have done it to themselves. So, it's a difficult scenario. We don't want to look weak to women, and we don't want to look weak to our sort of, our co-gender, men, other men. We don't want to look weak. We want to seem strong, but it's not like that. I can assure you, it's not like that. You don't get a say in the matter. I've said this before. You don't get a say in the matter and how you react. How your mental health, my neck and back have been absolutely killing me lately, because there must be something that's building up with a little bit of stress, and I know what it is, family and stuff like that, normal stuff going on, but because of my mental health conditions, I tend to deal with things a little bit differently. And as it's always been said, the research has shown that men avoiding and denying any medical assistance actually increases that mental health problems and a self-destructive behaviour. It actually develops it even further. It's a horrible situation, but then it progresses and procrastinates. Procrastinates, that's the word I think I'm looking for. That's a new word for me. I haven't used that word for a long time. But what happens is we go into self-destruct mode, don't we, as men? We get emotionally exhausted, we get into depression, we don't admit it, so we smoke, we drink alcohol, we abuse food, we then become obese, and we put on weight, so we feel even less fluffy and happy about ourselves because we're walking around slovenly, and we don't get the support from our men. Men don't come round with a fucking couple of beers and sit down and go, what's your problem, mate? You wouldn't do that. Men don't do that traditionally, and we're trying to break that stigmatism. I'm personally trying to break that barrier down and go, in actual fact, when you need help, get help, because you'll be a better person. You'll be a better friend, a better husband, better whatever you are, boyfriend, whatever. You'll be a better person by doing that. You don't have to go around and shout it from the treetops to everybody, I've got mental health conditions, because you just look like you're looking for... you just look like you're looking for that attention. If you've got or had a mental health condition, you don't tend to shout it from the rooftops to every man and his dog. You tend to be a little bit classy, a little bit self-aware of what you're dealing with. And that's why, I know I'm on a podcast, so there's a lot more people that know about it, but my actual personal friends, they're the ones that know. There'll be people out there that won't even look at me for having a mental health condition. They won't even understand they've got a mental health, because we hide it, don't we? We sit there and we push it down, we bury our head in the sand, and we crack on. But what we don't understand is, by going into self-destruct mode and, smoking more and drinking more and eating shit foods, all we do, they just distract you from the actual problem. And what they do is they just end up deteriorating your mental health even further, because then you're not liking who you become. Then, like I did, you stop caring about your body, you stop caring about your appearance, you stop caring about the clothes you're wearing, you stop caring about how you are presenting yourself to the public. You very much do that because you just don't care, and that's where we go into self-destruct mode. And it's almost with, like, if you ever see a sign with a man, I can guarantee that if you've seen that sign, then that's the very tip of the actual iceberg that person's going through. Very, very, very much so. Because if anything, one thing I've learned is you can hide most of it. You can hide most of the problems. But when you start getting to the point where you stop hiding it and it becomes seeping out of your ears, eyes and mouth, so to speak, metaphorically speaking, of course, it doesn't piss out in those places, but when you start getting to that point, then that is when you're ready for the breakdown, because men hide it so well, we bury it so deep that when it does actually start coming out, and that's what happened to me. I buried it for about 2 to 3 years, and when it did come out, self-destruct for 7. That's what I was doing. I literally went into self-destruct mode did everything I could. I tried with my strength and my will to pull myself out of it. And like I said, I alluded to, I was that committed to trying to think I was doing something that I'm going to do a half marathon, like couched a half marathon. And I did it in 10 weeks. Now, that's not normal. You don't do that. You don't push yourself that hard. But what I did was, on the day I did that half marathon, I stopped wearing my Fitbit and I stopped running. So I'd got to the point where I felt healthy. I felt amazing. I was looking pretty sharp. You know, I'd lost a considerable amount of weight. And then I just went, nah, I'm fucking done. Because it was a temporary fix. I hadn't built the solution. I hadn't developed coping mechanisms. I hadn't nurtured my friends. I hadn't been open and honest about what was happening in my life. Nobody knew about it. So it's a really double-edged sword for men. And I think that this is where I'm trying my hardest to try and break that stigma. And as I said, you know, I still deal with these problems. I still have problems that are chucked. I've just chucked a scenario at you that's happened in one day. It can get to the point where they can spiral, they can mountain up all the time. And the more you deal with it, as I've said, we get to the tip of the iceberg and I'll start coming out, and then I might come into the workplace and have a little bit of a spout of an argument, or just lash out at something ridiculous like I used to do. And you get nothing from that apart from self-stress and upsetting people, let's be honest. So it's a difficult, it's a difficult situation to actually deal with. But if we don't look at these factors, and we don't assist each other, and we don't help each other, and we don't open up and talk about these problems, as I've done, like I said, I've reached out and I've gone, to all of my little secure network, because I know they all listen to my podcast, and I've said, what do you think of this scenario? Have I dealt with that correctly? Because I'm still learning, and I've taken the first step by being open and honest about a scenario and gone, this is how I dealt with it. Do you think I was wrong, or do you think I was right? And I've had mixed reviews, but the mixed reviews, or the people that were almost looking at it as I was quite negative, like I said, the terminology that was used was, that's a bit cutthroat. That terminology that was used was by somebody who doesn't know my personality and doesn't know my journey. The people that know my journey, know my personality, know the real me, know that was hard to make that decision. They know that it was hard for me to not help someone. But they also know and appreciate what I've achieved and what I've done are with my own merits. So I'm proud of that. I'm humbled by the fact that they've come to me, and I take it as a compliment. But that's the compliment that just sits there and go, take that as a compliment, mate, but fucking no. So what I did is I've reached out. I spoke about the scenario. I've said, this is my scenario. And I've actually been on Facebook, and I've joined a couple of mental health groups. And I get asked, there's a lot of people that ask random questions, the same sort of scenario questions that I ask. And I go, yeah, this is how I dealt with this. I don't know the guy from Adam, but that's how I dealt with it. And it might be a positive, it might be a negative. He might look at it and go, that's fucking a bit wild card, mate. I wouldn't have done that. And then you see in the comments, you see people at different stages, and it's a lot of men that comment. But what a lot of men do, I've noticed, even in these mental health forums, a lot of the feedback that you get back from these people are of a negative virtue. They're almost to the point where they almost don't. The only thing they don't say is man up. That's the only thing they don't say. The rest of it is there. The rest of it is all like, yeah, you should be fine, mate. Just let it go, buddy. Just let it go. And you're like, well, maybe you don't know his journey. You don't know his path. So try and articulate why you think you should do that. Offer some actual content to your advice. That's really important. And that's where I value the responses I get from the people around me. Because they know who I am. They know my journey. They know what I'm going through, what I've been through. And they see what I've achieved. That is the basis, the foundation to me getting better, was people understanding my journey, understanding that I'm not doing this for attention. I'm not doing this because I'm sort of reaching out and sort of saying, look at me. I'm doing this because I want to better myself with the support of the people that I love and trust. So it's a difficult one, isn't it? It's very difficult, but for me, the concerning bit about all of this and these topics that I've been talking about, and emotional exhaustion and men reaching out and afraid to ask for help, the problem that I receive in this is we still have a stigma. We still have that sort of negative approach to other men. We still go man up, and I still see it, and I can't believe that I'm still seeing that in today's current climate and on social media. I'm still seeing people say, oh, man up, and you just think to yourself, I don't think you understand, mate. You know, if we all work together as a team of men coming together and helping each other out and promoting positivity and promoting the fact that it's nice to reach out and actually get someone to listen. Like I said, women have it right. You can say what you like about women, and you can say what you like about the two different genders. And I'm only talking about two genders. I know that there's 90 million of them out there, but I'm talking about the crux, the male and the female, you know, the penis, the vagina. I'm talking about that. And what I am talking about is when you put us side by side, you actually see that men don't look after themselves and don't look after each other. Women look after themselves and look after each other. Okay, they've got their own dynamics that have got problems. Yeah, they're quite moany and all the other stuff, you know. But when you look at the mental health aspect of how women run their lives, this is why they can multitask. This is why, you know, they can raise children without massive, you know. All right, I'm not categorizing this across the whole of the nation. We've all got our own journey, but I'm saying when you look at the statistical data, it shows that women look after each other. If you know that a woman is unwell, you'll go around and take her a fucking, you know, a fruit basket. If she's just split up with her boyfriend, you'll go around with a bottle of wine, a box of ice cream, and a box of chocolates, and you'll sit down and watch a shitty love movie and reminisce. I'm not saying that men are going to fucking do that, because I don't think that we should go that far, but that's the lack of emotional empathy in my side. But at the same time, we can take elements of that and we can manipulate it. And it's to start by talking about our problems. And so we don't get to the point where we're overeating, we're drinking alcohol, we're smoking, you know, taking drugs, whatever you do to try and combat. And that's what a lot of people do. You see the epidemic in places like Scotland, for instance, where heroin is a massive problem up there because, you know, there's hardly any work. Men are stressed out trying to provide for their families, and men don't talk, so they just go out and take drugs or drink or smoke or, you know, overeat. So we self-destruct all the time. All the time we're beating ourselves up. And then when you go into work and you do find people to talk to and you think, oh, I worked with this guy, worked with him for a few years. Yeah, I'm not fucking feeling it, mate. And then they turn around and go, oh, fucking man up, mate. I don't know what your fucking problem is. Sort yourself out, you piece of shit. You know what I mean? Or whatever. You know, and I get, and that is how we deal with it, isn't it? That's how we deal with these things. We don't open up with, fucking hell, mate. Shit, let's go out for a beer tonight. Oh, I'm coming around tonight, we'll have a cup of tea and just chew the fat, you know? I do that a lot now. I don't do it enough. I do not do it enough. I know I need to. But my thing is, I like to invite my friends out a lot so that I can get the opportunity so that it doesn't build up. I do contact now my friends every single fucking day, throughout the day. Even if it's just one message before and afterwards, you know, morning and evening. If it's just one of those messages, it makes that point. And that's what I do now. I make the point of doing that. I contact my friends daily. And like I said, I'll nurture it. And when it gets to the point where that fizzles out and fades, then that person's done with your life and move on. You just retract it. This is where we constantly evolve, we constantly develop. You know, people have their own paths, and they might not be in your path for a long time, but if they've given you the gift of their company for even just a short period of time, and it's positive company, then take as much as you can from them and give as much as you can to them. And then you might help them on, and you'll see that there's light at the end of the tunnel. So it's an important, isn't it? Self-destruction is an important topic for men, and we do it. We do it naturally to ourselves, and then we do it naturally to each other. We don't tend to sit there and, I'd like to hope that generation is. I think we've probably peaked a little bit the other way with the younger generation at the moment. Maybe, I think, if I'm going to be so bold and honest. But at the same time, we can find a happy medium. We can find that happy medium with the current the current generations we have that are going through the world at the moment, we can develop the right path. We're all learning, we're all developing, but we can nurture a good environment for that. And it starts with you. It starts with you. You have to make that decision. When you make that decision, I spoke about in my podcast yesterday, I made the decision for the change. I said, I need to change. No one can do it for me. There's no magical pill out there. There's no magical bottle of alcohol that's all of a sudden going to make me fucking happy. What I need to do is wake up and be happy in the sense of looking for the positivity, trying to turn a negative into a positive all the time. And I do that a lot. I try to do that as much as I can because it's really important to manage that. And I do think that, hopefully with people listening to my podcast and hopefully people engaging with me, that we it's almost like that skipping stone effect, isn't it? Once you hit that first, you get the right stone. If you get the right stone and skim it, and you skim it across that water, you'll get 6-7 bounces out of it. Well, it's the same. You've got to be the person that throws a stone, throws the right stone. If you throw the right stone, you'll skip. You might even get to the other side of the lake and be happy. Well, those little skips along the along the pond, they're each person embracing you and helping you. And then if you think about, we can relate it quite easily to a pyramid scheme. So we all know pyramid schemes, don't we? Pyramid schemes are everywhere. You buy a product, right? If you buy my product off me and I give it to you for a slightly reduced rate, you can now sell to all of those people. If you get 2 or 3 people on board and they do it, and that's a pyramid effect. Well, it works that same way with mental health. Mental health is exactly the same. If you've got one person strong enough to make a difference and speak out and show that there is light at the end of the tunnel, you will give hope to the other people. And if you develop that in your own little network, then you know for a fact that the person that is in your network has other friends, because we all go through different paths and we all meet at different points. So if you give them an insight and a feeling into being happy and how to do it and developing coping mechanisms, if you do that, then they might pass that on to their other friends. And do you see what I mean? We're getting that skipping stone effect, skimming stones across the pond. We're getting that pyramid scheme. And that's what it's about. We need to break the stigma that men can ask for help, and they don't have to sit there and endure it in silence. And it's really important that we nurture that. And that's what this is about. This is about me offering scenarios. I jump on a podcast because for me, it gives me that release. It gives me that exposure to getting as much information and as much support as I can. And that's why I do it, because I do it for myself. I do this purely for myself, because for me, by talking openly, I get it off my head. I relieve the stress. Even now, I feel lighter on my feet just by talking to you about the update and offering advice on how I've dealt with it. And here I am now, and hopefully that skipping stone effect will bounce to someone else, and actually someone else will go, oh, fucking hell, James, I know a guy that did that, and this is how he dealt with it. Oh, did he? It might work for you. Give it a go. It works. Oh, I'll tell your fucking friends. And that's how important. That's how it works. And we do this in daily life, but we just don't do it in the right scenarios. And I think that one of the biggest things for me is breaking that stigma between men not being able to talk. I think that's really important for me. So just a cheeky little update, really, and just give you another little bit of food for thought. Interesting. I do, like I said, it's something I'm trying to break that. And we don't want to go it alone anymore. We're in the 21st century. Gone are the days where you're down the mines, and you're going, working your absolute bastard arse off for next to no money, going home. We're not like that now. We all feel experiencing energy problems and rising bills, but everybody's in that boat. That's not an individual effect. That's not somebody just their mental health will decline, but at the same time we can develop coping mechanisms to support each other. Now that might not be supporting someone financially, but that might be supporting someone emotionally, offering them advice, offering them something that it's worked for you. And then in turn you might assist them. And I'll tell you what, the value you'll get out of that friendship once you've helped them out of that scenario will be invaluable. You will just create and nurture a really good bond. So good food for thought there. And I hope you've had a little insight into me and just how I deal with scenarios and how I deal with things. And just being able to speak out is a big important part. I know I'm talking to a mic, but at the same time I'm talking to a mic that can reach a lot of people. So, you know, what I say and what comes back is really important to me. So thank you very much for listening. And I can't wait to talk to you again. I love this whole process and how it's made me feel. And even with that little insight to a negativity last night, I'm trying to put a positive spin on it. So, yeah, thank you very much for listening, and everyone take care.